Hello, folks. J. Scott Phillips here, and today we are bound for big old giant woolly dusty books with the March of the Mammoths book tag. Now, it's been quite a while since I've done a book tag, so I may be a little rusty at this. So we'll find out here together. Wish me luck. But I do watch a lot of book tags and always enjoy them. And I've noticed that maybe you do this too. As I'm watching a book tag and they're going through the prompts one by one, I will be answering them in my own mind with my own responses. And then I'll usually think, well, I've got something kind of interesting to respond to this prompt here, or maybe something fun to say about that prompt. And then I'll just tell myself, why don't you just do the damn tag and join in on the fun? And so that's always my intention. But I've noticed that if I don't just sit down right then and there and do it, a day will slip by, and then 2 days, and then it'll start to slip my mind, and then various reasons, whatever, I just don't get back to it, and then we just move on. But my intention is always to do more book tags. But since today is Tag Tuesday, and I was recently tagged by Joe's Book and Movie Corner to do the March of the Mammoths book tag here. What better time to get back on the saddle than when you've been tapped? So here we go. Thanks, Joe, for encouraging me to get off my butt and finally do a book tag. Maybe this will start a trend if I'm lucky. Now, March of the Mammoths book tag. If you don't know what that means already, it's March of the Mammoths is a yearly booktube event every March, and it's been going on for several years now already. I think longer than I have been doing my channel. So, but that's only 3 years or so. But anyway, it is to encourage us all to be going to our bookshelves and pulling down one of those big old books that have been sitting up there gathering dust for months or years. And finally pulling it down, dusting it off, and giving it a read. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a book that you haven't read for a long time. It could be a reread. It could be a book that you never have touched once you bought it. It doesn't matter. I think the only criteria is that the Mammoth book is defined, I believe, by the event as a book of 850 pages or longer. That's pretty big. Now, I think that sets up the tag here, and there are 10 prompts. So prompt number 1 is, are you currently reading a Mammoth? And yes, I am. In fact, encouraged by March of the Mammoths. I didn't start reading it on day 1, but just over the weekend, I started reading James Michener's Centennial. Now, this, I'm ashamed to say, this is a book that I've had not for months or years, but decades. I think I got this book in sometime in the 1980s, and it's sitting up there on my shelf with several other James Michener books. I really like James Michener, and I probably have, I don't know, 8 or 9 Michener books. I've read probably half of them, and the other half are like this one, that have just been sitting up there, always intended to be read, and just haven't gotten to them. But another reason I picked this one in particular is that I was just, for some reason, recently looking through some of the history of New York Times bestsellers. And this particular book, Centennial, sorry about that, folks, but right in mid-sentence, I got cut off because my iPad ran out of juice, so I had to go and grab the charger. Should have just keep it plugged in all the time while I'm doing these recordings. I thought I learned that lesson a long time ago, but that's how prepared I am today, so sorry about that. But so I think I was starting to say how I came to select this particular book. And I discovered that 50 years ago this week, this book was the #1 bestseller on the New York Times list. And not just this week 50 years ago, but for a lot of weeks 50 years ago. This was on the list for quite a while. It was pretty popular back in those days. And I will say that I am not the fastest reader out there. So a book like this would take me quite a while to read. And if I had started reading this on March 1st and not reading anything else, but just this during my reading time every day, A book like this, without much else going on, would probably take me 3 to 4 weeks to read all the way through. Uh, but I am reading other things at the same time, and I just started reading this book over the weekend. And so I'm counting on some advice that I heard. I forget who was saying this about March of the Mammoths, but you don't have to read the whole book in the month of March. So that's good. As long as you start it in the month of March, then you're considered participating with in March of the Mammoths. So a book like this, with the other books that I am reading and other things going on in general, will take me some time. And I'm guessing it's going to take me maybe a month and a half, maybe even 2 months if I'm lucky to get through this whole book with everything else going on. But my goal is, keeping in mind that this is a Western. So June on the Range is coming up in, 3 months. So I ought to have this book read by then. And if I do, we may have a June on the Range video come out of this if I'm lucky. So we'll see. And then prompt number 2. What is the biggest book you have ever read? And I guess that depends on a couple things. One is, what do they consider the biggest book? I don't think they mean just in size, but I'm going to figure that they mean something like page count, which is also kind of tricky because it just depends on the size of the book. Is it a hardback? Is it a paperback? The weight of the stock that it's printed on, the pages and all that. So what are they really going by? So I'm just, to keep it simple, I'm going by page count. And I've read a number of mammoths over the years and never really kept track of how many pages they were. I will generally know whether it was a mammoth or not, 850 pages or more, but how much larger was one book than another, I didn't keep track. But I did, just before turning on the camera here today, that I went through my bookshelves and looked for some likely candidates. And out of the several that I checked, the largest that I found that I can verify is Stephen King's, this is a big book just size-wise, Stephen King's The Stand. And long lost its dust jacket, unfortunately. But this clocks in at, wrote it down here, 1,153 pages. So this is longer. I thought 11/22/63 might have been longer than this. It sure seemed longer than this. But I've just got a paperback of that, and it's only 1,000 something. So this is the winner here. So I'm going to say that this, at least for the sake of this video, is the biggest book I have ever read. And as long as I'm hoisting it around here, I will also say that it is also, when it comes to the ending, the biggest disappointment I have ever read. That, as I like to say, is another story. But I really enjoyed the book. Don't get me wrong. I enjoyed the book all the way through. It even crept into my dreams when I was reading it over a course of a couple months, years and years and years ago. Just that ending, I was hoping for something that anyway. Prompt number 3. What is the smallest book you have read? Now, that's tough to say, too. Now, I'm assuming when they're saying a book, they mean a novel. And a book, I guess, depends on, if it's too short, it's going to, at some point, be smaller than a novel and get into novelette or novella territory. But if it stands alone as its own volume, I guess you consider it a book, right? So, again, I went through my library and looked at some likely candidates, and I thought, this counts as a book, and I think most people would count it as a novel. Look how thin it is, though. This tiny little mass market, but it is the Time Machine by H.G. Wells, one of my favorite books of all time. And I don't have the camera close enough to the bookshelf I pulled this off of, but you would, if you were standing in front of my bookcases there, you would be able to tell very easily this is one of my favorite books, because I've got probably 15 or 20 different editions of this same book for various differences of cover art, or I've got a couple of kind of fine editions of it and all that. But This one, I pulled this one off because I have read this particular edition a few times. Don't think it's going to stand up to many more, but at least it demonstrates how tiny this novel really is. It only comes in at 96 pages, so not even 100 pages long, but it feels much mightier than its page count would suggest. All right, prompt number 5. Is size a consideration when deciding? Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped over number 4. Number 4, is the size of a book intimidating? Not really. I kind of feel like it is, but it isn't really. If I'm interested in the book and it keeps me engaged while reading it, no, I don't care how long the book is. And in fact, there's a lot of shorter books that I wish had been longer because I like them so much. But I will say that the longer the book is, the more opportunities it has to lose my interest if it doesn't keep things going very well. And then I might, not an intentional DNFing it, but I may set it down for a while, and it might linger while other things, shinier new books, attract me and I move over. Anyway, the longer the book, the more chances it has of losing my interest, I guess. But it's not really an intimidation to get started on it. So I guess that's a way of dancing around that one. Now back to prompt number 5. Is size a consideration when deciding what to read next? And I guess it's kind of the same answer. The two questions are really related. So I will say no. As far as considering what to read next, I don't let the page count deter me. In fact, depending on what it is, if it's a novel, I want to keep reading it. So the longer the book is, it might be more difficult for me to, over as long as it might take me to read the book, to keep that momentum going. But a lot of larger books like this that I read might be biographies or histories of something. And then it's easier for me to set down for a while and then come back some weeks later even maybe and pick it up and get back into it, because it doesn't have that running narrative like a novel wants to keep you going. Nonfiction books are easier for me to set aside for a bit and come back in and not have to go back and reread and catch up and remember where I'm at in the plot line, something like that. Prompt number 6, how many pages long is the book you are reading now? Well, the book I'm reading now is Centennial, and I think I already said it's 1,086 pages. I am reading another book. It's not a Mammoth by any stretch of the imagination, but it is, they're asking, a book I'm reading now, and I am also reading The Asteroid Hunter, which is nonfiction by Dante S. Loretta, and I should say Dr. Dante S. Loretta, and he is in charge of the, what was it called? The OSIRIS-REx mission, which is sending a probe out, a space probe out to land on the asteroid, what the heck is it? Bennu, the asteroid Bennu, and scoop up some samples off the surface of the asteroid, bring it back to Earth, drop it into the Arizona desert where we can go and collect it and study the sample pulled right off of the asteroid, and then and which they have done that now, and the probe has dropped the sample off in the Arizona desert and has gone off to other asteroids now. So it's on a longer mission, really. But the idea here is to learn as much as we can from this asteroid about the origins of our solar system, that kind of a thing, and also to figure out how best to stop this thing from crashing into the Earth in another 150 years or so. It's the size of an aircraft carrier, as it's described in the book, and it is heading our way. So we'll have to do something between now and then. Nothing to worry about quite yet. But anyway, it's an interesting book, but it's not a Mammoth by any stretch of the imagination. Oh, and it's asking how many pages is it. So it is only, if I get past all the index and the references and the acknowledgments, it is 200 and something, 296 pages. So not a mammoth by anyone's book, as you might say. Okay, prompt number 7. What is the average length of books you read? I don't know, somewhere between 300 and 400 pages, probably. Most of the books I read are not mammoths, but so I would say somewhere between 300 and 400 pages. Again, not verified, but that's just an estimate. Prompt number 8. Do you think humans will bring back mammoths from extinction? It doesn't have much to do with books, but I did look this up at some point, and there is a company called Colossal Biosciences, which is trying to do exactly this and bring back the mammoth from extinction by trying to taking the DNA and crossbreeding it somehow with elephants, and over a period of generations, you start off with a half mammoth, half elephant, and then another generation or two later, you'll have 3/4 mammoth and 1/4 elephant, and then down through the generations, they will be able to get more and more percentage mammoth and smaller percentage elephant, so that at some point it's really mostly mammoth. And they're planning on getting that accomplished by the end of the decade. So I don't know, but if the question is, do you think humans will bring back mammoths from extinction? If they don't do it, I believe somebody will. But an interesting thing about Colossal Biosciences, they're not only trying to bring back the woolly mammoth, but they're also trying to bring back the dodo. So that would be something, because the dodo is sort of the epitome of an extinct species, isn't it? Anyway, so and then the 9th prompt here is, do you think they should bring back the mammoth from extinction? And I don't know if they should or not. I mean, it's not like we're bringing back a velociraptor or anything. I believe that the woolly mammoth was a herbivore, so it's not going to be going on a killing rampage or anything. But I don't know what the purpose of it would be, other than just to preserve the species. If they should, I don't know why they shouldn't, except where are you going to keep them? I would hope that they wouldn't bring them back from extinction and then just put them in a zoo somewhere, although that seems likely. But I don't know if I've got an opinion on that. I would be interested to see it, because it would be kind of cool to have actual mammoths around, but I don't know. I have to give that more thought. I'll get back to you on the next book tag that I do. And then prompt number 10 is to tag some people. So I think this has been making the rounds, this book tag. So all the people that I would normally tag, I think, have been tagged, including Randy Ray. I noticed that Joe, as well as tagging me, did tag Randy, and I don't think he has done this yet. So on Joe's behalf, Randy Ray, I will re-tag you to do this book tag and see how that goes. Then I am going to tag Christopher Russell, who is a fairly new booktuber that I just came across, thanks to Randy Ray, who shared one of Christopher's videos, and I enjoyed it, and so I jumped into the comments there, and I've been following his channel ever since then. And then Brandy the Booklectic. I haven't seen her posting anything for quite a while, and I always enjoy her videos. And since I haven't seen it for a while, Brandy, if you're watching, I don't know if there's a reason you haven't been doing videos for a while, but maybe this will encourage you to jump in and at least do just this one, just for fun, at least. Then I will also tag David Murphy, who has restarted his channel here just in the last week or so. And so this might give him a little something extra and easy to do to start building up his catalog again. And then someone else who who started their video channel about the same time as I started mine, and that is Sarah at Eyes on Indie. And I've always enjoyed her channel from the very beginning, because she focuses mostly on independent presses and talks about a lot of books that I don't hear anyone else talking about. And so it's always interesting to get a take on that. That are a lot of great books that we just don't hear enough about. And so if she's read some Mammoths, probably from that angle, would be kind of interesting. I'd like to see, Sarah, if you're watching, maybe you could take a stab at this tag. I don't know if you do that many tags really anymore. And then that brings me to the end of the book tag. So, Joe, I want to thank you again for tagging me. And for those of you that don't know Joe's his BookTube channel, it is Joe's Book and Movie Corner. And he's been doing his channel, I think, for a little less than a year, maybe. But I've discovered him recently, and it's become one of my go-to channels. I really enjoy his content. He talks about books and movies, and not just regular books, but also comic books from time to time, but a great range of books. Science fiction, he talks about history, lots of different things. A nice broad range of content. So I'll leave a link to his channel down below. Be sure to check him out. And there you have it, folks. So maybe this will be the first of a number of other BookTube or book tag. See, this is what I'm talking about being a little rusty at this. I intend to be doing more book tags in the future, and maybe this will start a trend. All right, I'll leave it at that. And so until we get a chance to chat again or tag each other again, thanks a lot.